Okay, Dayna, so thanks for joining me again. I want to talk about, so a few weeks ago, you and I had a conversation about BMI. And then I actually went to the doctor a couple weeks ago and experienced some issues with my BMI where the doctor pointed out that I'm still obese and I'm still morbidly obese. And I'm telling you what, it frustrated the tar out of me. I love my doctor. He's just doing his job. Like I have no issues with him. But to see the word BMI tell me, to see this piece of data tell me after I've lost 145 pounds, worked my butt off to do it, that I'm still morbidly obese, like I'm not okay with that. And you called me a few weeks ago and wanted to talk about BMI. And so I want us to have a conversation about it, about your experience with your obesity doctor. And let's just kind of just dissect, because there are so many people whose identity is caught up in that. And as you and I were talking, if you don't know your identity in Christ, like if you're not secure and confident in who you are, hearing that, seeing this number on a screen tell you what or who you are can jack with your mind. So let's just dive into your experience recently and our phone call.
Yeah. So BMI stands for body mass index, and it's a parameter that doctors use at a glance. And I want you to hear that phrase, at a glance.
Yes.
About the level of health you probably have. So overall, is that bad? No, not in general. At a glance, your doctor wants to be able to say, hey, you're on a good track or you're not on a good track. They don't have hours to spend with you. It's not like the old days when your doctor probably went to church with you and was in the same small community and saw you for everything from losing your first tooth to giving birth to dying. Like they were your doctor from start to finish. Now we have a system that's set up and run, by certain measurements and parameters, thanks to insurance, and because we want to make medicine easier and more efficient. What does that lead to? It makes the person a little less seen and like a cog in the machine rather than the focus of the treatment. And that can be really disparaging and disheartening and really difficult, especially when you are looking to medical professionals to help you with something you have been struggling with your whole life to fix. And when you get to the end of you and you can't fix it, okay, if I can't fix it, then doctors have got to be able to fix it, right? The problem becomes that while they may have, classes in medical school on nutrition and on the endocrine system, and they might have classes on the digestive system, and they may have classes, where they study all these things, doctors end up specializing and they start, or they become generalists, right? You're either generalist and you're a family doctor where you know a little bit about a lot of things, but not enough to really help anybody. And that's why you refer them to a specialist, or you're a specialist and you know so much about just your one thing that, you kind of become myopic and you don't see the person in front of you. And in that system, BMI has become kind of a way that they, at a glance, can tell whether or not you are healthy. Now, if you are a person that has gained weight, you're overweight, you don't need to be told you're fat.
Right. I want to stop there for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be told that you are fat. It's not like we walked into the doctor's office and we're like, oh, really? Like I had no idea that I couldn't breathe walking up the steps, or that I had to get a seatbelt extension, or that I couldn't get my pants like at the store. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah, it's not like when I was getting dressed this morning, I had to use a wall just to put my underwear on so I didn't fall over, because I don't have enough balance, because when the fat shifts, I'm in trouble. Like, I did not notice. Thank you so much.
Yes,
you lovely person with way too much education. Thank you for boiling that down for me.
Right.
And
well,
if you've
you
ever
said that education, but not necessarily common sense.
Right. And commonality. So the thing about common sense is that it is common information. We're talking to an audience that is in our situation, that has struggled with weight, that is trying to lose weight, or that has gone on this journey and lost weight. They can identify with the conversation we're having. A medical professional who has always been healthy, who always has given priority to their food and exercise, and who has never had the genetic propensity or the family trauma that some of us have experienced where they turn to food. They've never had those issues. They've never been overweight. So they don't understand that the way that they speak to people and the way they speak about our health is actually counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
So that your experience going to the doctor and them saying your BMI is too high and that you're still morbidly obese, that is exactly what prompted me to call you. One day I went to my normal PCP, and it is in a different hospital system than my obesity specialist and a different hospital system than my original surgeon when I got my gastric sleeve. But it is the system that is around here. It's the most prevalent. It's where I go for my day-to-day needs.
Mm-hmm.
I had a cold. I go in to get checked out and to get some things for the sinus infection that was building up. And my after visit summary that gets automatically printed out by this hospital system has a page and a half after the thing I initially was seen for, an additional page and a half that goes on and on about my obesity and that I am morbidly obese. Now, I shared with your audience in our previous conversation that I have lost, as of a month ago, 141 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I still am morbidly obese according to the BMI chart.
Me too.
And so that is extremely discouraging. Now, most people are listening to this. They're not going to be watching the video of this. They're not going to see pictures of my befores and my afters. You and I roughly weighed the same at our heaviest, I believe, 330 pounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so the exact same. It was shaped differently. Your body stored fat in different places that my body stored fat. I've been able to lose fat in different places than you've been able to lose fat. So like, while we may be similar in our beginning, the middle of our journey is different, and we're still both on this journey. You know, we're still exercising every day. We're still going after our health. And so to look at a chart that discounts all the hard work you and I have done, it feels belittling, and it feels exacerbating, and it exhausting. It feels counterproductive. It feels dismissive. And I think it belittles people and makes it immediately jacks with their head. You know,
that's such a good word. I've been trying to put a word to it, and belittle is such a good word, because that's exactly how I felt. And the doctor wasn't doing it. He didn't belittle me in any way. He's an amazing, amazing doctor. I have nothing but great things to say about him. But it was that approach that is belittling. That's such a perfect word. Yeah.
So in that approach, if they are trained medically to say, hey, this is a red flag. The thing that we look at a glance says that you're kind of in a dangerous territory. We would be outside of our bound duty of our Hippocratic oath to do no harm if we did not say, hey, this is something you need to pay attention to. I understand that. I applaud that. What I don't appreciate about the medical establishment is that they do not recognize how far you've come.
Amen.
And so, again, remember that this was with my regular PCP. I just happened to, at the end of that week, have an appointment with my obesity specialist. So when I went in to go see my obesity specialist, and another one of the things that had happened, let me back up really quickly, is that my PCP sent me for an ultrasound for something she was kind of concerned about. When I got that ultrasound in that week, between appointments, the ultrasound was of my kidneys and my bladder. But of course, you know, they are looking at just about everything. And the person who happened to read, the radiologist that happened to read my report, who looked at all the things on the report or all the things on the test happened to notice that I have a fatty liver. Now, I actually take umbrage to doctors calling it a fatty liver. There's a longer, like it's an acronym, it's 5 letters long, and I don't remember the actual,
Mm-hmm.
name of it. It does include fatty liver in there, and they've just shortened it to fatty liver. But if
Right.
everything else has, like, say hepatitis, that's the liver, and it is an infection of the liver, and it has different types, right? A, B, C.
Right.
Why can't they call it hepatic anaposis or what is the word? The adiposis or
You can make it up, and I would say,
like,
yeah, I have no idea.
yeah, I mean, like, adipose is the medical term for fat, right? Okay, so
Okay.
adipose tissue, and so if they were to say like hepatitis, blah, 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 now I can't even say it. Like, if they use medical terms instead of just saying fatty liver, I think it would be a little less offensive. Why is it so offensive? Because every single one of us, first of all, none of us ever, you said this on one of your podcasts, and I 100% agree. When we were little, we did not grow up thinking, I can't wait to be fat. I
Right.
can't wait to weigh way more and not be able to shop with my girlfriends because they don't even shop in the same stores as me, because even the stores they shop in don't have sizes that go up as high as I need. I can't wait for that. So, like, the fat girl that lives in our head rent free, or guys, if you're listening, that little fat boy that lives in our head rent free, does not hear words like fatty liver or morbidly obese and think, that's something I can overcome. That's okay. No, they think, oh my gosh, why am I even trying?
Yeah.
I have no hope. We immediately go to the most dark, negative places. And I mean, thank God for his grace and for Holy Spirit that, like, brings us out and goes, no, come over here with me. And he helps us process those things.
Right.
But if we have been using food instead of Holy Spirit to process our emotions, if we have been using Netflix to unwind instead of worship or praise or thanksgiving or time with the Holy Spirit, then what's our natural propensity going to be? It's to go back to stuffing our faces, to veg out on the couch. So, those words become triggers. And when I read the report from this radiologist, who, by the way, the radiologist was in a total another city. They just saw it electronically, never seen me in person in their life. Says, this person has a fatty liver. And then their recommendation was for me to, quote, eat less and to exercise more, end quote. I got so angry. Like, I felt like
it makes my blood boil just hearing it. I've heard this
angry.
story already, and my blood still boils.
Yes, like I was Jesus flipping tables angry. Like I was mad. And
it's a radiologist. First of all, a radiologist who is not, to my knowledge, certified to give diagnoses.
Right.
Is that a word? Diagnoses.
Diagnoses. Yes.
That. I mean, that in itself, just he was completely out of bounds in saying any of that.
Yes. So, and I did take that up with the hospital. I will tell you, I ran that all the way up to the CEO of the hospital.
My mama would be so proud. She'd be so proud.
I ran that complaint up as far as I possibly could. So, but it's not just enough to just say, hey, you hurt my feelings and you should be more sensitive. What can we do to change it? First, I think the first thing we need to do is to realize that BMI is one metric. Yes. It is one metric, one at a glance look at our overall health.
Yes.
A scale measures your relationship to gravity. You understand that, like, It just tells you how much force your body or gravity has to work on your body to hold it to the ground. That is what the scale tells us. We translate that to pounds, but we could have simply called it something else and understood it totally different. But somehow the fact that it's pounds makes it more important.
Mm-hmm.
The scale is one metric. The BMI is one metric. When I went to my obesity specialist, one of the things she looked at was my metabolic rate. She looked at my hormones. And insulin is a hormone, and I am insulin resistant. So we addressed that. I have hypothyroidism. So we addressed that. I have PCOS, which PCOS causes your body to add more fat, and more fat makes your body miss more cycles. So like, it's just kind of a thing that just feeds itself. And PCOS contributes to the development of pre-diabetes, of pre-cancer, like all these things. Insulin resistance, guess what it makes? A fatty liver. Like all of these things are connected. And my obesity is a symptom of these underlying medical conditions. But in the medical field, many doctors are automatically trained or of the medical opinion that fat is causal, that it's the reason you have medical conditions. But the reality is that the majority, and I do mean the majority, I'm not a doctor, but these are conversations I've had with my obesity specialist, the things that I've researched, the things that I've lived. The majority of people who are heavy have underlying medical issues or underlying emotional issues that contribute to their weight. And
one, I'd say, usually leads to the other. An emotional issue is going to lead to a physical issue. Physical issue.
Well, we know that from the Bible, because the Lord is very clear that people who are bitter end up crippled.
Yes.
They end up turned in on themselves. Yes. So we see a heart matter directly tied to a physical matter.
Yes.
So I think that one of the things that we have to realize is that these metrics, again, are not our identity. But also we need to understand that we can do something about it. First of all, depending on how brave you are, and this gets into how free you are, really, honestly, how free and how confident you are in who you are now, how far you've come, and how far the Lord will take you. To sit down and have a conversation with your doctor that says, hey, I'm a person, and I understand what you're saying to me medically. Can we have a conversation about how this is affecting me emotionally, how it's affecting me mentally, and what impact those two things are having on my overall health? I realize you're not a psychiatrist. I realize you're not a therapist, but you are the number one person I go to for my health. And I would like to get an even playing field. Make whatever notes you need in my charts. This is how I'd like to be addressed. I don't want to be referred to as morbidly obese.
I love that.
I don't need to be told I am fat. What I'd like to hear from you is, wow, I can see you've been working. Or even if you didn't lose any weight between your last appointment and this appointment, I can see you've been working. You haven't gained anything. Congratulations. I can see
and it makes a huge difference when you hear your doc. Like, so when the doctor I went to is the doctor that did my skin removal surgery, and he's amazing, and he's always saying like things like that, like, you're doing great. I'm so proud of you. You look great. Your progress is great. All the things. And then I hear, well, let's look at your BMI. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't hear anything else, which is my own issue. Right. But you're right. I think if we were to sit down and say, hey, can we get on this playing field here? They probably wouldn't know what to do, because they don't have people willing to have that conversation with them. And the medical field is not having that conversation.
Yeah. So that is an excellent point. When I discussed these things with my obesity specialist, one of the most exciting things happened. She and a bunch of other doctors in the same field. And I am from the Houston, Texas area, a huge medical community. She and a bunch of other doctors in the same field have been having discussions about how they can change the medical community and their approach to obesity. So I said in a previous podcast that I was on with you that obesity is like diabetes. Once you have that diagnosis, you will always have that diagnosis. With diabetes, you either manage your diabetes or you don't. With obesity, you either are obese or you are not. And there is no scale to measure your progress. You are either, it's black and white. And it is a yes or no. And according to the BMI charts, I would have to lose another 50 to 60 pounds in order to be out of the morbidly obese. Well, my obesity specialist measures my bone density, the weight of my bones, the weight of my muscles, how much each cell of my body holds water, what my water weight is at any given time when she's like measuring that. And it breaks it down by the arm, by the, like, she will tell me how much my head weighs, how much my torso weighs, how much my each arm, each leg weighs. She will tell me of that weight, how much is muscle, how much is fat, how much is bone. And in my case, my bones weigh 65 pounds by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Then you add muscle, which weighs almost the same amount. Well, that's what I'm supposed to weigh according to a BMI
Right.
chart, 140 pounds at my height. Like that would be pre-obesity, right? Like I would be out of obesity range and I would be considered healthy according to the BMI chart. That doesn't count my organs. It doesn't count water. It doesn't count anything that's caught up in my digestive tract. It doesn't count the actual healthy fat that my body needs to function. Because you can't go from, when I started this journey, my BMI was 57. So I was more than half fat. I can't, I'm like currently at, I think like 32 or 31. I don't even remember because it's not something I even think about anymore because that's not my focus. But
Right.
like it is just one metric. But your body does need some fat. Did you know your brain is all fat? Like it weighs 4 pounds and it's all fat. You can't get rid of 4 pounds of fat.
Right.
No matter what you do. So
if I got down to, so we're similar on where we started and then kind of our weight loss goals. If I got down to how tall are you?
I am 5'4".
Okay. So I'm 5'2". So if I got down to 140 pounds, like I would look sick.
Yes.
I would look sick, not healthy.
Right. I literally have people who are very well intending, who have watched me go through this weight loss journey in the last 2 years, a year and a half. It'll be 2 years in October, since I had surgery. And they will come up to me and say, first of all, tell me how amazing I look, right? And then say, don't lose any more weight. You're going to start to look sick. And I know they mean well, right?
Yeah.
But I have one more physical goal besides losing about 20 more pounds. I have one physical goal that I just absolutely am striving for. And that's to have my collarbones pop out. We're going to throw a party and like have an amazing time when these things pop out. I'm going to wear something that is strapless so that they show off. And because I think the décolletage of a woman is probably the most attractive thing on her. I know that's weird. I'm an artist and I love just drawing like this part of a woman between like the mouth or the nose and right above the boob. That to me, that area is just so pretty. So when my collarbones pop out, party USA.
I gotta look at my collarbone. Huh.
Hey, I can see yours. like I could see that right there. Like, that's so cool. Like, you can sort of like, I rub body oil on mine and then just kind of
That's
like,
funny. I've never
you
thought
know,
about it.
it's
I'm gonna
seriously
be
like
feeling my collarbone for the rest of the day.
it is it is one of those things that you just lose. You lose your neck becomes half the width of your shoulders,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you just don't have that pretty, when you wear something that, it's just supposed to show off that part of your body, it just doesn't have the same effect. You just look puffy and swollen like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. So
right.
I
Yeah.
am really looking forward to that part. So that's one physical goal, losing 20 pounds. And then if I lose any more weight, then great. If I don't, I don't care. What is
Hmm.
important to me is when I go to my obesity specialist, am I building muscle? Because muscle increases your metabolism and you burn calories and fat faster the
Hmm.
more muscle mass you have. I'm more
Yes.
concerned with my muscle mass than I am my body mass index.
Yes.
I am more focused on my strength. Um, I started off being able to use 2 pound weights. I am now using 20-pound weights in my HIIT class. And when I do a circuit workout on my off days, which is Tuesdays and Thursdays, my max weight is 60 pounds. For my
I love that.
bicep curls, for my
I love that.
arms, like so for my legs, it's
That's
even
just
more.
proof that we have to start somewhere. Like we don't
Yes.
all start on the same level, and you can't go into something. I mean, I know we're talking about our BMI, but I'm going to get off track here for a second.
No, that's fine. It's all
We can't
connected.
go into it thinking we're going to start running 5 miles the first time we get on the treadmill, or we're going to lift 30-pound weights, or,
What is
whatever. We
run?
have to start somewhere. We have to start small. And that's the same. I think I started with 3-pound weights because it's what I'd had. It's like what I owned for 5 years before I ever decided to get off my butt and do anything.
Hmm.
And so that's what I started with. And now, well, not now, since I've gotten skin removal surgery, I probably need to start back with the 3-pound weights. But before I was getting that, I was doing a 25-pound kettlebell. Well, guess what? I
Hmm.
didn't start with that. And so, yeah,
Right.
you said that, and I just want to highlight that because I know somebody's listening that struggles to compare themselves to others, or struggles to know where to start, or starts too deep and then lasts 2 days and quits because it's
Hmm.
hard.
Hmm.
Start small, right? I say it all the
Right.
time. It's all about taking the next right step.
So yeah, in that vein, I think that that's really, really super important because if you're not going to look at BMI, and if you're not going to look at the scale, and that is something that has to be broken. The last time I weighed was the last time I was in my obesity specialist doctor's office. I don't care about my weight. I care about how I feel, how I fit in my clothes, how my overall fitness
Yes.
level is.
Yes.
So my weight, my relationship to gravity is not the be all and end all goal. And I'm breaking free from that. My BMI is not my overall goal. I'm breaking free from that. So I look at other metrics. How far did I come? This week I did 10 more push ups than I did the week before. And
Awesome.
I did them unassisted. I didn't have to modify them.
Good
This
deal.
week I did 4 more pull ups. Yes, they're still assisted. Don't judge me. You try lifting 191 pounds without
Right.
assistance.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
So, but I did more than I did the previous week. And those small things, you have to, as one of my trainers says, you have to get under the pinata. Get under the pinata and let that stuff rain down on you. Celebrate every little thing. Because if you don't,
Right.
then what you
Yes.
start doing is living in the negative and looking at all the things you haven't done. I
Yes.
have lost over 20 something percent of my body fat. I have literally lost the equivalent of a whole person, 141 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I go to a doctor, they still say, "Oh, you're morbidly obese." So in
Right.
having a conversation with my with my morbidity, with my obesity doctor, I was telling her all the stuff that I was so frustrated by the medical system, and how being told I have a quote fatty liver triggered me, and how hard I had to work to get out of that pit, that I had to make sure that I didn't go to the fridge or to my pantry to feed myself, because I was upset, and how I had to work through, stuff with my therapist, and how I had to sit down and journal and address those things. And then, being given the diagnosis of morbid obesity, when I have lost the equivalent of a person, it's like no one is recognizing all the hard work I've done. And she said that is what she and a bunch of doctors in Houston are trying to do. They are having I don't even know what the actual thing is. It's kind of like a doctor's think tank where they're different doctors from
panel?
different. Yes, thank you. So they are establishing a panel of doctors who are looking across, thousands and thousands of pages of documentation for people just like me and you who have gone to see them, who have had such great success, whether or not they maintained it or not. They are, once they are impaneled, they are actually inviting some patients to come and advise the medical community on how to approach having these conversations differently in ways that are medically effective and that, do share with the people that they're serving how important it is for their overall health to lose weight, but also how to honor that person in a way that doesn't belittle them, that doesn't make them feel worse about their situation, that actually empowers them. So in talking with my doctor, one of the things I told her, I said, I've never, until you, at 45 years old, when I walked into this office, and I've heard for the last 20 years of my adult life that I'm pre-diabetic, you were the first person who explained to me what that meant and what insulin resistance was. And not only that, you did something about it. You told me my options. You shared with me what medically could change it for me. And you gave me the respect to make a choice. And that should be the approach of every doctor.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it's not. And, I hate to say, there's so many of us that just have got this attitude that if a doctor says it or doesn't say it, then we just do what the doctor says or don't do anything that he doesn't do. And so
frustrating.
Yeah, because you were putting your life in somebody else's hands. But when you stand before the Lord and he judges you for your life, he's not going to call your doctor up.
Correct. Preach it. Preach, man.
It's just very important for us to understand that we have to take full responsibility for everything.
Yes.
My dad beat the mess out of me. That's not my thing. That's his. How I've held it against him and and made myself a victim for most of my life. That's my thing. And I have to let that go. And I have to stop being a victim and realize that Jesus made me a victor. And I have to give away the bitterness. And I have to lay that at Jesus's feet. And I have to take responsibility for all the things I did in my hurt and repent from those. And then I have to, once I've repented, I've turned 180 degrees. I'm back on the right track. Now I have to pursue something different. We have to do the same thing. It's not just a spiritual application. It is good for our bodies. It is good for us mentally. It is good for how we approach our work life. It is good for how we approach our actual health. And you have to take responsibility. You are given this body. The Lord designed it for you. And if you are going to change it, you have to first change your mind. Dr. Carolina Leaf, who I highly recommend, she has a podcast and she's written many, many books. She will tell you that your mind, the way you think, can change your brain, like the physical part of your body. And if it can change your brain, then what can your mind do to help change your body? So
we'll link to that book in the show notes. Dr. Gary Smalley used to talk about that same thing and very similar in the way she approaches the branches of the tree. And so it's so true. It's so true. Our brain is linked to our hearts, to our bodies. I mean, it's all encompassed, right? Our soul is our mind, will, and emotions. And if we don't have that healthy, then nothing else is going to be healthy. Yeah.
Dr. Gary Smalley approaches it from the spiritual aspect and what he understood biblically, right? And Carolina Leaf is a doctor of neuroscience and has 40 plus years of experience and is a believer. And she is approaching it from the scientific part. it's amazing to me how science proves the word of God over and over and over again.
Over and over again. Yes.
So, when we embrace this idea that changing our thinking is not a new age thing, the Lord has been telling us to create a new mind, to renew your mind, to whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on those things. The Lord has been giving us instruction for years in this, and we have to apply it even to the way we think about this stuff medically. BMI is one metric. Do not get stuck there. I know I had the same exact reaction as you. One of the beautiful things about sharing this information with my doctor and telling her how I was upset about it, she said, take control of your charts. Talk to your other doctors. We're having this conversation. She's the one that encouraged me to go to my other doctors and say, hey, I want to set some professional boundaries between us. And they have their professional boundaries, but you're the one that's in control of you. Set your own professional boundaries. Furthermore, she invited me to join the panel. So I am very excited to become a part of that team that could change the way other medical professionals discuss obesity. And this is their ultimate goal. They recognize the uptick of obesity, that we go from a small weight to a larger weight. What they want to do is create metrics and charts that doctors and insurance companies can see the downswing and recognize it. Because one of the things they see from the doctor side is that because obesity is a black and white thing to the insurance company, you either are obese or you are not obese, right? But they don't see obesity as a disease. They see obesity as a weight issue. So when your weight comes down, insurance stops paying for things like my insulin resistance medication. And they stop
skin
paying,
removal surgery
or
for that
skin
matter.
removal surgery, or any of those other things, because you're no longer obese. But my doctor and the doctors she works with in this panel really truly understand that obesity is like diabetes. It is like other diagnoses. You always have the underlying diagnosis. Your body always has a propensity to put on weight very easily. What they want to do is recognize that you have taken off the weight, that you have worked hard, and they want to put levels of obesity in the system so that insurance knows it's coded correctly, so your insurance knows how to pay, but also doctors know how to respect you and the hard work that you've put in. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's extremely, extremely important. It creates a positive feedback loop between you, your doctor, and all the things that you have done, and actually propels you forward. It's like, keeping good octane gas in your tank so that your car can move forward. You start putting junk in your tank, you're going to end up starting to sputter out and die. So, emotionally, mentally, the doctors are speaking life or they're speaking death. And if we are interpreting even the things they are saying that they mean for our life, but if we are interpreting them inside, that little fat girl that lives rent-free in my head says, she just called you fat, when that is not what she said.
Correct.
We're going to sputter out and die. So I'm excited about the possibility of being a part of a team that could change the way we even recognize people's challenges with weight.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited that a doctor is willing to do it. What I don't want it to seem like is this is just a doctor bashing episode, because it's not at all. Doctors are amazing. They're created for a purpose. So I just want to get that out there. But, so like we said in the beginning, so many of them are just doing what they've been taught to do. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm so glad that there's a doctor who says, let's do something different. I'm also so glad that you get to be part of that panel, and you get to be a voice for us, for so many of us, to say, hey, let's have a conversation about this. And that's how things get resolved, right? It's conversations. And so I'm so glad that this conversation is happening.
If someone is listening right now and they're like, well, what about this thing, or this happened to me? And I've asked this on social media before. I literally had a woman say, I went to my doctor, told him I was having problems with a lot of pain. This was literally her OBGYN. And she's like, I'm having some issues. I just want to see what's going on. And he gave her a standard exam, did not take any specimens, and just said, everything looks fine. If you would just lose weight, a lot, 98% of this would go away. She went to another doctor about 6 months later. They did all the tests, and she had ovarian cancer.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Yeah. I've heard that multiple times, unfortunately.
Yeah. So those kinds of things happen. And should the first doctor have taken more time? I mean, yeah, in a world of shoulda, woulda, couldas, absolutely. But this is what they're trained. They're trained to look at weight as a cause of your problems and not an underlying symptom of something else.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, in the world that we live in, fat shaming happens. Bias against fat people in the medical community exists. Is it right? No, but it happens. If you've ever watched an episode of My 600-Pound Life, that doctor was an excellent doctor at cutting and giving people surgeries. But the way he talked to people killed me. If that's the way your doctor talks to you, please find another doctor. You do not have to stay in that kind of relationship. You wouldn't stay in that marriage. You wouldn't stay in that friendship if someone was putting you down constantly and making you feel belittled and small. And aside, I'm not advocating for divorce. Please don't hear that. I'm just saying that like there are things that we would do to fix it. And because we believe doctors have so much wisdom and they've got all this education, we tend to trust them even when they treat us badly. And there are good doctors out there that you can find. And there are doctors who are just there to finish paying off their school. You are the patient between paying off the school loans and retirement. And don't go to those. But not all doctors are bad doctors. Not all doctors are great doctors. Find them.
That's with anything, that's with anybody in the world. Not all police officers are bad. Not all police officers are good. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing.
I'm excited. I'm excited for a shift. I'm excited for you to be a voice. I'm excited that people are looking at things differently. I'm just excited. But
yes.
I just wanted you to come on here today and us just to have this conversation so that somebody else can hear it who may need to hear it today, and just end with that encouragement of, like you've said, it's just one, it's just one thing. It's just one small tool. And it does not identify us. It does not label us. And so if you're struggling with that today, my encouragement is to get back to the root of who you are, who your identity is, and don't you dare allow that number to tell you who you are.
Or even how far you have to go. Because, if I lost, like you were saying, if I lost the weight that they told me, I would literally look like I was dying of cancer. Like I would be skin and bones. And
me too.
And when I got married and I was at my healthiest and I was 19 years old, I'd come out of 6 months of homelessness, living in my car. Before I met my husband, I finally got at my own apartment. I was up on my feet for about 6 months before we got engaged and married. And I was at a good, healthy weight. I wasn't underweight. I wasn't overweight. I could see my hip bones standing up. I love that. When I look back, I want that again. But that was 175 pounds. 175 pounds is still obese to the doctors, but it's my weight loss goal because I know I will feel good in my skin. So set your own goals, reach those goals. If you surpass those goals, celebrate that, but don't listen to what other people think that your body should or shouldn't look like, and rely on what at a glance is just one metric and not an overall look at your complete health. And then the last thing I'll say, Sundi Jo, is if someone's listening to this and they want to connect with me so that I could take their concerns or their examples or their issues to the panel that I'm going to be working with, they can contact me on social media and we can share all those things in the show notes if that's okay.
Yeah, and go ahead and tell them how they can find you, and I will make sure to share all the links in the show notes. But you can go ahead and tell them.
Okay, so on Instagram, I am The Constant Creative, and that is the_constant_creative. And on Facebook, I'm just Dayna Bickham, Dayna B as in boy, Ickham. And on LinkedIn as well, you can find me there. If you're on TikTok, I'm on The Constant Creative too.
All right. Yeah. And I will link to all that in the show notes, and definitely looking forward to a report to see how that goes. And thanks for being a voice for us.
Thanks for inviting me to talk about it.